I'm Peter McClintock, and in this video I'm going to show you a great photo walk that starts at King's Cross Station in London and goes along the Regent's Canal past Coldrops Yard, the London Zoo, Regent's Park, and on to Paddington Station along the Regent's Canal and joining the Union Canal towards the end. And there are some great locations for photography along the way. So I took my RX1R Mark II along on the trip, and I'm going to talk about some of the photographs, talk about the camera, talk about the locations, talk about some of the history and why this is a great photo walk that you might want to do and explore some new places in and around London. So let's get started. It's really worth exploring the area that you start this photo walk on, which is King's Cross and St Pancras. So the King's Cross station has this amazing roof that you can see in these photographs, and it's worth attempting to capture. And if you're into that sort of thing, there is also platform 9 3/4, which is the famous platform that the Hogwarts Express in the Harry Potter movies left from. You can see that, and there is a gift shop there if you want to get something for your children. And then just outside of King's Cross Station is the amazing St Pancras Station with the St Pancras Hotel. I understand that the architecture is Gothic Revival, not that I know anything about that, but it's an amazing structure at the front. And for this, in this particular case, my 35mm lens wasn't wide enough to capture it all, so I resorted to making a pano of this. And inside the hotel there are some great statues, this kind of wartime statue here that you can see, and there's also some incredible staircases and things like that if you want to explore inside the station. And then if you walk down between St Pancras and King's Cross stations in the northerly direction and then veer towards the right, you will come to Coldrops Yard. Coldrops Yard is an area that has been recently renewed, and it comprises two long buildings that have archways down the length of them, and they were coal drops. So they were used in the late 1800s. I think they were built one in 1851 and 1860, and coal was brought down from Yorkshire in the north of England to London, and it was loaded onto either carts to be taken around London to power the city, or it was loaded onto barges in the Regent's Canal, and that's why one of the coal drops is right alongside the canal with archways that lead onto that canal in order to load up the barges. It's now made up of little shops and boutiques, restaurants, things like that. It's a really attractive place to be, particularly in the summertime. And if you are visiting there and you want a cup of coffee, I would thoroughly recommend visiting Redemption Roasters. And this is a business that has the tagline, reducing reoffending through coffee. And what they do is they give prisoners and ex-prisoners the skills that they need to reintegrate into society. So as well as having a cup of coffee, you'll be doing something contributing to society. Another feature right next to Coldrops Yard are these gas holders that have been converted into apartments. Now again, my 35mm lens on my Sony RX1 wasn't wide enough to capture these, so I resorted to a panorama, and that worked out absolutely fine. Here are two panoramas that I made that show the structure of the gas holders and how the apartments have been built inside of them. Coldrops Yard is right next, as I said, to the Regent's Canal, and so it's a perfect start to a walk along the canal that takes you past many interesting areas. The boats themselves are interesting. One of the boats is actually a bookshop and well worth exploring, and so you can walk along the canal and you'll see a number of interesting things to photograph in terms of street photography and just general urban photography around London. Soon you will come to Camden Lock, and that is an incredibly busy area. Lots of street food available, all sorts of things that you can purchase. I find it incredibly difficult from a photography point of view when I was there because the weather was particularly warm for the time of year. It was still February, but it was pretty warm, and so the place was very crowded. It was hard to get space to take a photograph, and so I passed on reasonably quickly. This next photograph taken in under one of the bridges along the Regent's Canal. I used an HDR technique, taking 3 images and blending them together so that I could get some light and texture on the bridge itself and also not blow out the highlight at the far end of the bridge. This image of a lamp on one of the barges along the canal shows really the value of having that f2 lens in order to pick out the subject from the background, and it's been quite effective in this case. And also here, picking out this hook that's used to tie up the barges along the canal. It enables us to separate it from the background if shooting at f2. You'll find many picturesque areas as you walk along the remainder of the Regent's Canal, and eventually you will come to the junction of the Regent's Canal and the Union Canal. Moving on to the Union Canal, it's a short walk then from Little Venice back to Paddington, and there are various barges where you can have a glass of wine or have something to eat or have a coffee. And greeting you coming back into Paddington Station is of course Paddington Bear, and once you pass that particular statue, you're right back at the entrance to Paddington. You can get the Circle Line back to King's Cross if you wish, or move on to any other area of London. I hope you enjoyed that little tour of the Regent's Canal, and if you want to watch more of these, please subscribe to the channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really does help. Thanks for watching.